then.
Yeah.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will call this First Falls Public School District meeting to order. Clerk, can you form a quorum?
Kirby Anderson.
Here.
Natalie Knudsen.
Here.
Melanie Cole. Present. Matthew Lemke.
Here.
Missy Hermes here. Stephen Vigasa.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved. We have a resolution on acknowledgements. Thank you to Fergus Home and Hardware for their donation of tools and supplies for the woodworking and welding labs at Roosevelt Education Center. Also, thank you to Starluck Clogsvik for the donation to the Otter Angel account, an account created to anonymously assist families unable to pay for student meals. Could someone offer that resolution and move for adoption?
I'll offer that resolution.
And
For its adoption.
could I get a second?
I'll second that.
Missy, take roll.
Okay. Kirby Anderson.
Yes.
Natalie Knudsen.
Yes.
Melanie Cole. Yes. Matthew Lemke.
Yes.
Missy Hermes, yes. Stephen Vigasa.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Yep. And we have reports tonight. Our first report is from Mary Weaver, regarding the American Indian Parent Advisory Vote.
Looks like she might be late. Circle back.
I can report for you, since you're okay with that.
Yep.
Good with that?
Sure.
Okay.
We had our vote, and our vote did vote yes, so our committee said 6-0 vote. So we did approve the advisory task force that we have, that we go through. So we did vote 6-0, and we have our plan in place. And I believe Sarah Campa is going to be getting that to either Elaine or Jeff, signed and ready to go, so we're good there. Okay? Yep.
So our next report will be from Scott Colback, our elementary principal, Adams and McKinley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have 4 items to talk with you about tonight. Talk to you about. The first one is what we're now calling kindergarten meet and greet. Maybe in the past you've heard this called kindergarten roundup, and then it was changed to kindergarten registration, and now we're going to try calling it kindergarten meet and greet. Probably the reason why we're changing that is some years ago, before you could register your kindergartner electronically or online, you just did that paper pencil in person in the McKinley Gymnasium, and that's why we called it roundup or registration. Families can actually register their children now online. That's open. In fact, we have some kids already registered, so we're calling it kindergarten meet and greet. It's going to be at the end of this month on a Friday, March 24th. We've made some changes to how we're doing this. In the past, it's been done in the evening from like 5 to 6 p.m. We're going to pilot something different this spring. We're going to do this in the afternoon. Friday, March 24th is the end of our 3rd quarter. It's an early out for kids, so school's out at 12:07. So we're going to give families an option to come in 2 different times in the afternoon. They don't have to sign up for any of these times. They can just show up. 12:45 is the first session, 12:45 to 2, and then 2:15 to 3:30 is the next session. And we've lengthened each session by 15 minutes. So in the past, I've mentioned it was from 5 to 6, and we got everybody in the gym, and we were pretty crowded. So we're going to lengthen each session by 15 minutes, but then we're going to have 2 sessions. So we just think that that'll be a little bit nicer. The kids, they leave the gymnasium and they go to a classroom with one of our 10 kindergarten teachers. And by having 2 sessions, we'll have smaller groups going out into the classrooms. And then the kindergarten teachers will have more time, longer time with the kids. One of the things we like to do is start collecting some data on them, and it helps us then when we put our classes together over the summer, helps us do a better job of putting that together. There are some flyers with QR codes that people might see around town. And also we've mailed home to all of the people on the census, all of the people that we think have a child entering kindergarten should be receiving a mailing actually from me today. So we're looking forward to this new idea, and we're going to pilot it and see how it goes. All right, so that was the first thing. Second thing I wanted to visit with you about. This past Friday, we had a really good day here in Kennedy. We had a staff development day for our staff. One of the sessions that was heavily attended by all of our K-2 teachers was a session that was directed by our curriculum director, Amelia Lamar. She presented a 90-minute session on the new phonics curriculum out of the University of Florida Literacy Institute. So a month ago, I talked to you about UFLY. That's the acronym for University of Florida Literacy Institute. And all of our teachers now in grades K through 2, along with our special ed teachers and along with our interventionists, they have this new material available to them, and they can begin using it now, between now and the end of the year, in preparation for full implementation in the fall. So we're not really piloting it because we know this is the direction that we're going, but we're just happy that they have this in their hands now, and they're kind of been chomping at the bit to get at this. So we're really excited, but thank you to our curriculum director, Amelia Lamar, for all of the work that she has done to get this into the hands of our classroom teachers. Okay, third thing. This is something that we've done at Adams School and McKinley School over the years. It's called One School, One Book. And so, starting on Wednesday of this week, all of our first and second graders, they don't know it, but they're going to be, a wrapped mystery box has been delivered to all of our classrooms in grades 1 and 2 across McKinley and Adams. They don't know what's in this mystery box. We're talking it up. It's a big deal. They're going to open up this box on Wednesday to find in the box a book for every single student purchased by our parent-teacher organization. And it's the second book in what's called the Bigfoot and Littlefoot series. This one's titled The Monster Detector. Now, about 3 years ago, our One School, One Book effort was the book Bigfoot, Littlefoot, and it went over really, really well. So our teachers in grades 1 and 2 decided, hey, we're going to read Bigfoot and Littlefoot to our students as a read aloud in our classrooms during the month of February in preparation then for the second book in the series that our kids don't know that's coming yet, that they'll get Wednesday, The Monster Detector. So our kickoff is in the Adams School Gymnasium, and Mr. Evevold, one of our teachers, he will read aloud the first chapter. We're going to bring all the first graders in, and then we'll send them back to class, and then we'll bring all the second graders in. And so that's kind of our kickoff. What One School, One Book is it generates excitement, and it's hopefully the idea is that the student will go home with the book on certain nights of the week, and that the parent will read a chapter of the book out loud to their child. And then the next day, the student brings the book to school. The teacher reads the same chapter out loud to the class. And then that's just kind of what we do through the month, and that's how we get through the book. Now, certainly we know some of our second graders might be wanting to read the book to their parent at home. So we encourage that as well. So we have a lot of fun with that. We have a lot of trivia questions with that. We create a lot of excitement and generate just a lot of school enthusiasm with this One School, One Book. Okay, last thing I want to visit with you about. One of our district goals or part of the strategic plan is to implement what's called project-based learning in each classroom. So today I had a really interesting experience in visiting with one of our kindergarten teachers about the project that she's already completed, but the other 9 kindergarten teachers are going to do a similar project like this later this month. But she needed to get hers done because she has a student teacher that will be teaching later on this month. So anyway, all of our kindergarten teachers are doing a project titled, "What is the Best Pet?" So that's all of our kindergartners. Their project is, what is the best pet? So in this particular classroom, for about a 7 to 8 day period of time, they spent 45 minutes to an hour each day over those 7 to 8 days on this project. They even paid a visit to Companion Animal Hospital, got a tour with Dr. Franson, spent some time with her. But what all of the kids did in this classroom is they had to research all of the following pets before they were allowed to choose what is the best pet, and then further do a project with that, which I'll tell you in a little bit. But here's what they could research: cats, fish, turtles, rabbits, snakes, birds, dogs, guinea pigs, mice, and rats. And believe it or not, Dr. Franson told the kids during the tour what she thought the best pet was. And she said, this is the best pet because it is the smartest and it's the easiest to care for. Any ideas?
Cat.
The smartest and the easiest to care for.
I say fish.
Is actually a rat, according to Dr. Franson. But anyway, so after the kids had researched all of these, now they could choose. But because they're in kindergarten, you don't want anybody to say what they're going to research out loud, because if you do, then everybody else might want to research that same pet. So they had to quietly, there was a way where they could submit what they're going to research, not knowing what anybody else was going to say, and then they had to stick to that one, okay? So that was interesting to learn how they did that. But then they had to build, so this is part of the project and how they're learning, they had to build what their pet needed. Some kids were building a fish tank or an aquarium. They were building a cat climbing post. They were building kennels or cages. They were building toys that their pet might need. They were building food dishes. And then as a kind of the culmination to all of this, they created a 4-slide presentation on Seesaw. So they created an electronic presentation. So on their lockers, I had so much fun with this today. I took out my phone, and on their lockers they all had a QR code. And so I could use that QR code to go and learn about every student's, what they thought was the best pet. And the QR code would lead me to Seesaw, which would then lead me to their 4-slide presentation. And on 3 of the 4 slides, there were little videos where I could hear the student talking about what it is that they made for their pet and why they made that and why they thought their pet was what made it the best pet. So really, really interesting. Part of project-based learning is you need some sort of a culmination where you have a public audience. And so this was their way then of how they could get a public audience. I think these were shared with parents. I think that their parents were their public, but they had a public audience with me today as I'm just having fun at their lockers, zooming into their QR codes and learning about their projects. So went a little deep in the weeds with one of those projects, but just wanted to do that and share that here with you today. With that, I'll answer any questions you guys might have.
Questions? All right, thank you. Our next report will be then from Ivan Hurst, our middle school principal.
Hello, everybody. I'll continue on the PBL storytelling. I really enjoyed Mr. Kolbeck's rendition. I don't know if I can do that well. Nice job. Ms. Stish decided to do Ojibwe lands, and so I asked her to share a few details about her project with me. And so I'm gonna read a redacted somewhat of her project. Her individual project contained 11 individual segments that students worked through independently. And they worked together. They did both. The kickoff event was having Matthew Holding Eagle III, an NPR news reporter, come into the classroom and speak with students about his experiences as an Indigenous individual and his work with NPR. He shared his newest article highlighting the coverage of digital so I had to look it up. I actually had to look it up because this is a word that caught me off guard. Repatriation. That's what I'm going with. Of artifacts. So his newest article highlighted the coverage of digital
Repatriation.
I had to look it up, and you just of artifacts as well as answering student questions relating to that. A difficult topic for middle school principals to say and for middle school students to understand. He talked about his tribal identity, historical relevance for non-Native Minnesotans to identify the needs within Native communities. The students were actively engaged and asked varied and challenging questions. Several students came back to the room numerous times throughout the school day as they continued to discuss his attendance throughout the project. The next portion of the project would be completion of numerous tasks, including vocabulary, written work, YouTube videos, and online exploration of the Dakota and Ojibwe tribes, as well as reading related to both tribal groups. Students completed tasks both individually and in small groups, but really worked at their own pace. The culminating activity was to create a Flipgrid reflection on how life for the Ojibwe or Dakota changed between 1700 to 1900. Students had 2 minutes. They had a 2-minute video to create a concise, accurate summation of the individual academic works they had explored. They were required to respond to 2 other classmates in a positive and engaging way. Though many students were hesitant to create their Flipgrids, as this was a new task to them, they overwhelmingly moved past the apprehension to having fun creating this informational understanding that was shared with their peers. Ms. Stish goes on to conclude, overall the project went well. There were several adjustments made in order to into the order of the tasks, as well as need to account for the additional space to record. Oh, things you don't think about. Students seemed motivated to complete the activities, and the organized chaos did not seem to overwhelm or frustrate the students as a whole. So, quite a project, and they had a really, really fun kickoff, and I think the students really learned a lot through that. Because 1700 to 1900, a lot of things changed overall. So, Ms. Stish said she was excited, because she's new to that classroom this year, and so she was really excited that she could take that on. So I think a really positive experience for her and the students. One of our school district goals that we can achieve is to be knowledgeable about the 5 C's and the profile of a graduate. So each month at our staff meetings, we spent about 5 to 10 minutes reviewing the 5 C's. And we did one each month. So we did one in September, October, November, December. And we just wrapped up in our January meeting. So that's one way that we work to achieve the school district goal of profile of a graduate. I wanted you to know that. The ISTE update for you, the information I want you to know there is that they all submitted the ISTE standard that they're working on in their classroom. In many cases, they're tied to the PBL that they're working on, but in some cases they weren't. Once the compiled list shows that in students in grades 5 through 8 will have exposure to 14 different standards of the 28. So quite a variety just in the teachers that submitted those. And so we have a nice pool to start from. And it would be our goal to hit all 28 of those in middle school alone. Any questions on those couple of items there as I explain those? The PBL, the school district goals, or the ISTE? I'll get to some more celebratory items that we might typically hear at a board report. Parent-teacher conferences are going right now. They're going on this evening and all day on Thursday. So we have that going on. We also kicked off the middle school book fair, which is being organized by Roy Anderson and Christy Horgan. That's going on right now in the media center through the end of this week. And you can online shop until March 28th. Thank you to both of them for their work on that and then promoting reading in our school, because it does get the buzz going in the building. Back on February 1st, we had a math counts competition at Moorhead State. Miss Miranda Steer brought a group of students up there for the math counts competition. Jaden Kwapinski, Trygve Ronovic, Jacob Jank, Allie Breedenberg took home 3rd place medals, and Trygve placed 4th in the individual competition. So good to have those students get their experience. We also had the regional spelling bee, which we knew last meeting that Dexter, so the region, we had our local spelling bee, which Dexter won and Sarah Eklund was 2nd. Dexter placed 3rd in the regional spelling bee and Sarah placed in the top 10. Well, Dexter's 3rd place got him to the multi-regional competition, and he ended up in a tie for 6th overall. So that's kind of a fun thing for him. Mr. Ratz, and they made a big sign in front of the door that made a big deal about that for Dexter, so that was pretty special. That was nice to see. Hopefully you had the opportunity to take in the middle school musical. Ms. Trosvig and Ms. Sands co-directed absolute wonderful rendition of the play Annie, and they performed 3 performances on February 8th, 9th, and 10th, and that performance was just impressive. I hope you got to take that in, and it's even more impressive when you say it's 10 to 13-year-olds that pulled that off. I mean, that is amazing. So I really enjoyed that, and that also had some good buzz, so hopefully they continue to do that maybe on a yearly basis. Shout out to Ms. Trosvig and Ms. Sands for doing that. Other activities we've had, the Fergus Falls Middle School hosted a speech meet last week, Tuesday. It was originally scheduled to have 17 schools. Weather inhibited that. We ended up with 9. Fergus Falls Middle School ended up in 5th place. And we currently have, this year we have 15 7th and 8th graders on the team, and then 4 9th graders compete at the middle school level. That's how speech works. The Otter Risers Kiwanis sponsors the meet, so thank you to them for medals and trophies. We really appreciate that. The middle school speech is ran by Miss Jessica Anderson, as well as Carrie Love and Jen Tilkey. Appreciate that. And then two more fun items to celebrate. We had 2 middle school students selected to be a part of the Minnesota Middle Level Honors Orchestra. Lydia Ugarud, who's a 7th grade viola player, and Violet McCon, who's an 8th grade cello player, played down at the Minnesota Music Educators Midwinter Clinic. We also had a 3rd grader, Ian Stanley, who plays the violin. But the Middle Level Honors Orchestra is for students in grades 7 through 9 throughout the state of Minnesota. They have an audition process where they prepare 2 scales, one a required piece and one a solo of their choosing, and that's submitted to a judging panel. So once they're selected, the string players join together for a full day of rehearsals at the University of Northwestern in St. Paul, University of Northwestern St. Paul in Roseville, and then they performed at the Music Educators Midwinter Clinic on February 18th. So congratulations to Lydia and Violet for that. And then the last piece, this is pretty exciting too. Mr. Cumrow is always looking for cool things. And this year he has the 7th grade band hooked up with a pretty cool opportunity. This spring, they will get to perform the world premiere of a brand new piece of music written just for them by Texas composer Haley Woodrow. The opening of the music was recently sent to the class and they got the chance to experiment with it. Mr. Cumrow adds, the experiment is a good word as the creative idea behind the piece is about how middle school students are experimenting with new things all the time to try to find their identity. The piece of music is titled Fingerprints. So, very cool. Lots of fun stuff to celebrate this month. A lot of stuff. Any questions?
Questions? Thank you.
Very good.
Our next report, welcome Mark Anderson back up, our high school principal.
Thank you. Obviously, we had some opportunities to celebrate some of our activities last week. We've had Nordic skiers go to state. That was a little, seems like forever ago. It was like 3 weeks ago. We had our honors band members make state, so they were celebrated last week. And obviously, our girls hockey team went and took 6th place. So congratulations to all those students. A couple of things going on at the high school and ALC and IQ. Starting with the high school, I've had the opportunity to go into Mindy Christensen's classroom to actually teach the college, 2 different college class students how to take focus notes. They're not very happy with Mr. Anderson because there's a lot of thinking going on with that piece and some reason writing that have to go along with it. But when you go in and look at their notes and the highlighting and the annotating they're doing really well. And when I ask them what's happening when they have to study, they're like, very little. I'm using my notes, I'm interacting with them every day, so when it comes to studying in the night before the test, I don't really have to study anymore. I know everything I need to know. Moving to scope and sequence with our curriculum and our PLCs, our staff has already done a really nice job of making sure their PBLs are linked in there or linking their PBLs along with the ISTE standards. As Mr. Hurst spoke about, we are already hitting all the ISTE standards. It just depends on what content area you're looking at it. So they're adding those pieces into their curriculum and alignment and scope and sequence. So if someone leaves and someone new comes, all the information is there and they can move forward with that content. Metals and fabrication in Mr. Woodski's class is actually making a project for Mr. Anderson, like a project-based. It's a surprise, you won't see it till graduation, so I can't go any further than that at this moment. Students in Ms. Jensen's classroom are doing best practices also. They're doing critical thinking and they're also doing organization. She uses a binder in her science class where everything's organized and contained. They can take it home, but it has to come back. They get graded on that piece. She's also doing focus notes in that classroom, and the students are really picking that up and doing well with that opportunity in her room. She also has a lot of small group and inquiry work going on in there when she does her instruction, so really exciting things going there. The big one for project-based in English right now, the 9th grade classes, especially honors, have started their passion projects, which are project-based. I actually got an email from a young lady, it's a 9th grader, talking about 9th grade transition and how scary it was for her over the summer, thinking about the things that she wasn't sure about. So her and I actually met today. I found out that I'll be getting 2 more emails and an invitation back to class when she presents her project on what a better transition from 8th grade to 9th grade would be and how we could best do that. She's actually in the process of developing a webpage to support our current 8th graders and has a ton of ideas that us as adults probably didn't think about in the transition to high school from 8th grade. So she's asked if we could do a lunch date with a bunch of 9th graders, and I guess we're gonna do that here moving forward as part of her project. Our multicultural literature course that Ms. Tilke teaches is reading a story on Native Americans. And if you've walked around the building, we've actually purchased some of our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee money, our indigenous funds. We've got some pictures in the building, and coincidentally, the book she's reading has a number of the pictures in her book. So she has kids going around and checking it out in the building to see what that looks like in full color. So she was really interested one day when she stumbled upon those pictures in the building. Our ag classroom is learning about market trends and types. They talked about bull and bear markets. They connect with our econ classes that they've possibly taken in 9th and 12th grade if they're junior or senior in the class. What they found out right now is we're in a bear market, so selling and trading isn't a great idea. The kids did a really nice job of putting graphs and charts together. I tried to get some information on them to help my own portfolio out, but they weren't willing to give me much information. The FAC students have just completed their food truck contest. We get invited in to try food. They don't obviously make food trucks, but they have little trucks they design. They put together a menu that's important to the group of students, so it's about who they are as kids and students, and they figure out how they want to make that food, and they invite us in. It is very interesting to go in there knowing that I'm very picky at what I eat, but everything they put on their plate tasted really good. So they've done a really nice job of that. Real world experiences and making some foods that some of the kids wouldn't have made without peers that were in the classroom, trying some different things. Our counselors are trying to race to the end of registration. We were hoping to have that done last week, but Mother Nature put a halt on that, so hopefully we'll have that finished up this week. The kids are doing a really, really nice job. We had registration night / conference night. It was really about registration and meeting the Otter Time teacher next year. Our conference nights are usually 8 to 12% of our parents come in. We had 82% of our parents in the building those 2 nights, so that was really nice for us. We put a survey out to parents. We're finding the good things and the bad things, and we'll make those adjustments. We also did the same thing to our staff that was there that night, so we can get the good and bad and make sure that they connect with the parents and what we think we need to do and add and take out to make it better for next year. Our CNA students are in the process of getting ready to go to nursing homes to do their opportunity for CNA class. They were talking about oxygen tanks and things that seem simple, but the cleaning and the process of going through that, hooking it up and talking about how to do it on a dummy who doesn't have real nose and nostrils was interesting to watch kids fumble through that before Miss McNeely kind of reminded them, this isn't a real person, you're not gonna be able to stick it in a hole. So they worked really hard with that and looking forward to those opportunities. Miss Talley is working in geometry. She actually had kids draw a picture from a comic book to scale. So she's taking real life opportunity and putting geometric shapes and standards in there. Quite interesting when you walk around and watch kids try to draw normally by hand. Many of them are not artists, they would say, but the pictures that they're drawing because they're using their geometric standards and shapes and processes, the pictures are amazing. I can't wait to see what that looks like when they're finished. Our choir students will be performing in about an hour and a half tonight, 8th through 12th grade. Mr. Tilke and the Student Council has the blood drive March 15th from 11 to 7 o'clock in our maroon gym. And Mr. Tilke and Mr. Cedarberg will be busy in our 9th grade classrooms. They will be going around doing a presentation, question and answer on social media to our 9th grade students. Our ALC credit recovery is still happening here Monday and Tuesday nights at the high school up in the media center. They used to run it at the ALC, but once a kid leaves the building, they don't tend to take a left down the hill. They take a right, go the wrong direction. So we've opened up the credit recovery here at the high school, and kids are coming, and many of the kids that are there are going to meet graduation requirements this year. As we focus on seniors, we do have a couple juniors in there. Our students in English are learning communication, how to receive and give information, importance of the clear message. I was actually watching Mr. Johnson teach this class in the ALC 2 weeks ago, and it was really cool how he talked about the word I love you and talked to the kids about that, how that message is perceived and how unclear it is sometimes when people say it. What is the intent of it? How is it received? And what's the purpose of it? So when you get into it, they did some drawings and pictures and putting it back on each other. It was an interesting conversation, and knowing some of the kids down there, the ones who were talking were the ones that you don't usually walk into class and have conversations. So it was nice to see the depth of conversation. The Wizards of Math and Science, that both math and science teachers are teaching, is a project-based course. And they're working on how wizards and science and math work together in the real world. They just began their project-based project, and they're going to work through that over the next couple months. It's basically a whole class designed around project-based opportunities with the math teacher and the science teacher. The MAP Stars students are preparing for their event employment interview. Students are answering and discussing a variety of interview questions and role play. So a great opportunity for the ALC kids getting ready for their MAP Stars contest. And Otter Adventures has a focus on reading with the use of Reader's Theater during the second session. Students in grades 1 through 5 enjoyed reading and acting a variety of stories, culminating in creating a video. So some great things happening with our kids that work through the ALC with us. Our IQ students, I actually got to do an observation and watch the teacher have a story read about the first man on the moon, and kids were asking pretty cool questions, and they asked me, do you know anything about this? And my claim to fame was I was baptized on the day that the first man ever walked on the moon, and they got into a pretty cool conversation of, I'm pretty old. So, and I didn't disagree with them. So great opportunities. She talked about the first black female person that was working at NASA and how that connected in the classroom. So that was really cool to hear that too. Elementary teachers finished their winter benchmarking, so they'll be looking at that data. Elementary is adding time to the reading intervention position supported for our early readers. In partnership with the Regional Center of Excellence, there'll be a middle school and high school focus on how to engage with parents, provide the best learning environment possible. Brian does a really nice job of that. I try to get to as many of those as I possibly can too. Working on engaging our families online. Our second grade students are reading about a Minnesota author. And the IQ Academy conferences are starting February 27th tonight and go through March 2nd. I got an email from Ryan today with the list of all the parents and students who have signed up. They're doing a really nice job of reaching out and connecting with our virtual world. Our IQ is also doing 7 mindsets, and in March they live to give, make a difference. They talk to the kids about how to do those types of things and support each other. The IQ Academy staff continue to align their curriculum and state standards. And IQ Academy is going through partnership with Stride, just had an initial meeting with the Minnesota marketing firm to market 3 Stride schools in Minnesota, which would be us and then 2 others. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Ms. Weaver dropped off the document. Do you?
I do have it
All right.
already, yes,
All
I
right.
believe.
All right.
Thank you.
And our last report then will be from Superintendent Drake.
Good evening. First, I always like to start out with a few thank yous, and I have several to get through tonight. First of all, last week we celebrated Bus Driver Appreciation Day, and it happened to be a day that we had an early out due to weather, and so it's just a nice reminder of the challenges those positions have. Not only are they responsible for safely driving the bus, but they deal with student behavior, parent contacts, all those things, and we're truly blessed to have their help and service on behalf of our students and community. So the Otter Tail coaches and our drivers and their support staff, thank you very much. Your work is greatly appreciated. This is celebrating Public Schools Week, so we're very excited about that. And we have a nice audience tonight, so I just want to take a moment to talk about the vision of our district. And really have enjoyed the principals' reports talking about the many facets of the great work going on in our school buildings. But we start out with the 5 C's, and one is content knowledge. So we're laying a foundation of core competency skills that align to the Minnesota State academic standards. They're assessed through the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessments as well as other assessments that we use periodically. But we want these students to have a very solid understanding of literature, mathematics, science. We have very, very strong vocational programming here. We have a wonderful fine arts program. We are a very, very well-rounded academic institution. And to see those, that core knowledge then applied where we get creative problem solving, so we're taking real life problems that are pertinent to the lives of the students that we're serving, and they're applying their knowledge and skills and creativity to come up with solutions for the problems that are, again, part of their lives. And they're presenting them to an authentic audience. It's part of our project-based learning. Then you translate that into those, it ties right into the communication skills and the ability to read, listen, write, speak articulately. Again, these are just tying into basic core 21st century employability skills and our mission to have students that are career, college, and life ready. Then we roll into another core component of what we're doing, and that's character. None of this stuff really matters if, as the students cross that graduation line and receive their Otter diploma, if they are not people of small or strong moral fiber, integrity, character, honesty, reliability, all those traits that we need to see in our society to help us grow and get better and better. which leads to the final C, and that's community member. And so we want them to be contributing citizens, active in their community, looking at ways that we can improve, support one another, and continue to be a thriving local city, state, and country. So on behalf of the Fergus Falls Public School District, I want to thank everybody for their continued support of public education. And I especially want to say thank you to my colleagues who are doing a tremendous job providing a great education to these kids on a daily basis. Want to say a few more thanks. Thanks to all our families for attending our parent-teacher conferences. It's a great time for us to connect, and for our staff for making the time available to foster those relationships and further talk about how we can better support the students that are coming in and we're serving on a daily basis. I want to share a quick story and a thank you to Tindy Rund and Ed Shea. It was between the second and third periods of our last home girls hockey playoff game. I received a phone call from Tindy Rund, and we had water pouring in the Cleveland cafeteria. And she asked if I could come over and take a look at it. When I got over there, we did have water gushing in. And I appreciate Tindy. She had several garbage buckets strewn around the cafeteria, catching dripping water. We learned to use the walk behind Zamboni that evening to get water off the cafeteria floor. And then I made a trip up onto the roof of Cleveland with Ed Shea, and we discovered about a half-inch gap in the roof membrane that was close to 15 or 20 feet long. So fortunately, we had some quick setting patch material that had been left behind by the roof installer prior, and that was able to close that gap really quickly. But both Tindy and Ed really went above and beyond that evening in support of the school, and really appreciate all that they did. The ADSYS application, this is a big deal. This application is 60 pages long, plus some pieces on the budget side of it. It's a huge amount of work. I want to thank Scott, Tindy, Ivan, Amelia, and Renee for all their hard work on this. This ADSYS application is $800,000 annually over 2 years, of which 52% will be reimbursed back to the district. But this is work that directly supports our students in reading and literacy. So it's a huge deal for us, and we should hear back yet this spring on the status of our 2-year application. And then thanks to everyone that participated in the staff development committee for planning last Friday's staff development training. We had some really good things going on, and I heard positive reports from those people that attended. Some congratulatory notes. What a great season the girls hockey team had. Really proud of them. They were great ambassadors to our school and community. Played hard from that double overtime kind of heartbreaking loss to South St. Paul to open up the tournament. Bounced back with a nice win against Albert Lee, and had to be skating on fumes on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. For their final battle with Mankato East. But what a great season. Very proud of the coaching staff and the girls, and congratulations. We have several Otter boys swimming and diving athletes that are going on to state. The team took 3rd place at section, so congratulations to them. Matthew Toole is going to state in 200 free and 500 free. Jaden Kwapinski in the 200 IM. Micah Zozel in the 100 breaststroke. And then we did have the 400 freestyle relay of Kwapinski, Toole, Christian Reed, Adrian Blando, and Zozel that qualified as the relay. So good luck to them at state. Our wrestling season has now concluded. The team section was a week ago. The individuals took place just over the weekend. Our top finishers were Caleb Frowning, who placed 3rd at 132 pounds, and Sebastian Holding Eagle placed 3rd at 195. Otters girls basketball will have a home playoff game this Thursday versus Roseau. Otter boys hockey won their opening playoff round at home last Friday against Prairie Central area, and then play tomorrow night down at the St. Cloud MAC. So good luck to both of those programs. We still have parent-teacher conferences going on this evening and then again on Thursday. And then under switching to facility management, I promise you, we are really, really close to having this commercial teaching kitchen done. It seems like I've had this on the updates for the last couple months. But the last week's weather pushed things back just a little bit more. But we have the final kind of dotting of I's and crossing T's going on in this week with inspections taking place. And as soon as that last inspection is done by the city of Fergus Falls, we have a class ready to move right in there and get to work. So it's very, very close to being done and a great project. Switching gears again, we had our visit from the fire marshal. By and large, we've got a ton of square footage in this district, and the average age per square foot is about 49 years, I believe. So we've got some older facilities. But we really came through this fire marshal inspection in pretty darn good shape. The two most common issues that he wanted us to address is that in a fair number of classrooms now, you'll see over the lighting, you'll see some fabric that hangs down below, and it's to diffuse the light, and it's intended to have more of a calming influence on students in creating the learning environment. We need to make sure that those are fire-approved, the materials, or if they don't have a tag on them, that we have proof from purchase that they meet the fire code. So that's some work we need to do. And then as part of our fire suppression system, it's really, really important that all of our ceiling tiles are in place, and most schools are filled with drop ceiling tiles. And if students jump up and hit them, or throw a ball at them, or you're hanging stuff and they become a little dislodged, those become areas that the fire marshal will flag. And we have 60 days to make the necessary changes. Otter Fieldhouse, the portable, retractable bleachers have been installed. On Friday, March 3rd, we will host the Perham Yellow Jackets in a boys basketball contest, and really will open up that facility to full capacity. Should be a great ball game and a great event for the community to come out and reminisce about the memories made in that Otter Fieldhouse and making new memories there moving forward. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions for Superintendent Drake?
I think the Roosevelt Gym was used on Saturday. The backcourt was at the fourth grade tournament. I was down there and there was 2 games going on, so it's already been utilized. It's good.
Yeah, and that facility's home to Otter Wrestling and Otter Gymnastics as well, so it's being used a lot.
You know, there's at least one mom in here, Kevin Fawning. Probably some other moms and grandparents with kids that just said thank yous and congratulations to. So congratulations to Caleb and everybody else that he talked about.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll move on to our general consent items. So first we have the minutes from our February 13th, 2023 regular board meeting, and then we'll move to personnel.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to all our visitors also. Under personnel, we just have a few items. Certified staff hires, Gabby Fredrickson, long-term substitute elementary teacher at Adams. She currently has been subbing there, and this will complete the full year from the leave of absence that the board approved at our last board meeting. Rebecca Wynn, she's a special education teacher, and we have an overload for her for the rest of the school year, effective during the second semester. And then Vanessa Jacobson, reading intervention teacher at our IQ Academy, just an increase in her contract to a .7158 FTE, effective today through the end of the year. And for resignations, we have just one paraeducator, Alicia Cobal, and her last day of work will be March 1st. And so I would recommend these for board approval.
Could I get a motion to approve our general consent items?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. There's no old business, so we'll move on to the new business. And our first item is the 2022-2023 American Indian Parent Advisory Committee Resolution. Whereas the Fergus Falls School District 544 has an AIPAC composed of parent guardians of American Indian children who are eligible for Indian education programs, American Indian language and culture teachers and paraprofessionals, American Indian teachers, American Indian counselors, American Indian adults enrolled in educational programming, and American Indian representatives from the community. Whereas the school district affords the AIPAC the necessary information and the opportunity to effectively express their views concerning all aspects of American Indian education and the educational needs of the American Indian children enrolled in the school schools and programs. And whereas the AIPAC is directly involved with and advises the school board and district staff on Indian education program planning. And whereas the AIPAC develops and submits recommendations to the school board and district staff pertaining to the needs of American Indian students. Therefore, be it resolved that the AIPAC concurs that the school board and districts are compliant with Minnesota statutes, section 124D.78, and that the school board and district are meeting the needs of American Indian students.
I'll offer that resolution and move for its adoption.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Do a roll call, Missy?
Kirby Anderson. Natalie Knudsen.
Yes.
Melanie Cole.
Yes.
Matthew Lemke.
Yes.
Missy Hermes, yes. Stephen Biggessa.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
The second item is a lease agreement / amendment between ISD 544 and the State of Minnesota Department of Public Safety driver and vehicle services for parking lot spaces in the Roosevelt Vocational Wing effective April 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2026. Could I get a motion to approve that lease agreement?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, how many parking spaces are we talking about?
I think it's that overflow parking across the street.
3,000 square feet, so it's not a lot.
Parking there is at a premium even for students at the ALC, so it's not taking up their parking.
I don't believe so, no.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And then our third item is for fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25, ADSES grant application. And Jeff touched on that in his report. A motion to approve that,
So moved.
and a second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Our next meeting is going to be Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 5:15 right here in the community room. So our final item is our adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Meeting is adjourned. So we'll move into our work session, and we have Beth Helderson here. And just letting you know that this is a comment session, no action will be taken tonight, and you have about 3 minutes.
Thank you, and I know it didn't get on, but I believe there are two people who would like to speak after me.
Okay.
So I'll just take a couple minutes. We had mentioned that in the phone call that it would be me and then a couple of parents.
Right, the parents needed to contact me by 4 p.m. on Thursday prior to our board meeting. I didn't have anyone else contact me, so it'd be up to the board chair.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess in discussion with Elaine, I'll go
Twice.
back to just following our policy. And I believe you all have that, or they were set back there for you.
So they won't be allowed to speak tonight even though they're
Unfortunately
here?
not, yeah. We just wanna follow the rules just for past and future things that we've dealt with. So Thank you.
Okay, well, hello, board members, thank you. We are glad to speak with you tonight regarding our concerns, particularly with social emotional learning. We are local people, parents, grandparents, Otter Tail County taxpayers, and we're concerned about the lives of children, so we've come here to talk with you. Thank you. We are also enthusiasts and friends of several state and national parents' rights groups, and we advocate for children and for parents' rights legislation. We realize that there are controversial issues pertaining to parent concerns. For example, obscenity and graphic obscene content in school children's books, and we're concerned about forced speech and forced endorsement of ideologies in schools. We're concerned that schools are violating parents' rights to direct the upbringing of their children. And this is growing concern for serious rights violations, and I'm going to explain using the very words of CASEL, C-A-S-E-L, which is the Collaborative for Academic and Social and Emotional Learning. That is the organization that developed and defined social emotional learning as, quote, an integral part of education and human development. First of all, social emotional learning may be violating Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. And that act states that no person in the United States shall, by means of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation, be denied benefits, or be subjected to any discrimination under any program or activity that receives federal financial assistance, such as schools. So based on race, color, or national origin, there can't be exclusion from participation, denied benefits, or subject to discrimination. Another big concern is that social emotional learning may be violating the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. That clause prohibits government from making any law, quote, respecting the establishment of religion. Cornell Law Review, 1989, states that religion can be defined as a comprehensive belief system that addresses fundamental questions of human existence, such as good and evil, and gives rise to duties of conscience. So there are national efforts being considered to point out how critical theories, and therefore social emotional learning, can truly be legally categorized as religion. And as such, there are efforts to remove it from public spaces. Religion cannot be enforced by the state, and taxpayer funds cannot be used to promote religion. So those are some national groups working together in that regard. Also, the Collaborative for Social Emotional Learning, that organization that I mentioned, was founded in 1994 by a group of researchers, educators, and practitioners who felt that schools had to attend to children's social and emotional needs. It defined itself then as a field of study. Now, CASEL, the organization, states that it is, quote, the leader of the global movement. We have a concern that if it's a global movement, that then negates the constitutional rights and the Bill of Rights for our children, in that it is a global movement. Social emotional learning was then further defined as, quote, the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. That entire paragraph, we believe, is in the realm of parenthood and parent responsibility. There's nothing in that entire paragraph that talks about academics.
I'm going to tell you, you've got about 45 seconds.
In studying
Kind of wrap it up.
CASEL's website and Twitter posts, it states there's an area that is a social emotional learning pledge. And it says that this is a movement to build a more just and caring world. It talks about communal and societal well-being. Our concern, is that the responsibility of Fergus Falls schools? Is that the responsibility of Fergus Falls children? Societal well-being in a just world. This will no doubt result in learning loss for our kids. The website also states that this is a lever, social-emotional learning is a lever for advancing equity. The definition of equity is the breakdown and redistribution of shares such that all members are equal and the same, and that's the exact definition of socialism. So this is not the description of a merit-based entity. In an ad for an upcoming SEL conference, it describes the goal of developing student activists that will demand social change. We feel that that is not the role of the school. It is blatant politicization that will result in certain learning loss.
We'll give you about 30 seconds, and that's kind of the final call.
Under a header of community partnerships, Castle states that there is need for common language, and that also includes out-of-school time. So we have concerns about freedom of speech, forced inaccurate speech, forced endorsements. And then, the last point, in their guide to school-wide SEL, data is described as being absolutely essential for the implementation of SEL programs, and that means incessant surveying of our kids. And that's for programming and not necessarily for teaching. And then one last thing regarding surveys. We are still in dialogue with the school district, with our legal firm, Upper Midwest Law Center, regarding dialogue about a survey that was given, a political survey given in November, and we haven't reached a conclusion of that. So if there's the need for many, many more surveys for SEL, we're concerned about that statute that guarantees parents' involvement in surveys. Thank you.
Okay, our next work session item we'll be moving to is the 2022-23 school district calendar.
So since the last revision, we have had lost 2 more school days due to weather. And so prior to the last 2, we had what worked out to be a fairly clean calendar where we were going to release half a day through graduation Friday. So now we have 2 more days on top of that, that if we do make them up, would spill over into the following week. So that would include Monday the 5th and Tuesday the 6th. And March can be a fairly snowy month as well, so we may not be out of the woods yet in terms of potential school cancellations, etc.
Sorry, we're just looking to see if we're telling us that's the way it's gonna be, or are we gonna talk about it?
Well, if we're gonna make up those days, then they would fall on the 5th and 6th of June. Just another piece to be aware of is that we run some really tight programming for summer and driver's ed, summer school and driver's ed. So as we move into that first week of June, some other things, if we're going to make those days up, are going to have to be readjusted as well. It has been our practice, we have floated schedules out there that would add a couple makeup days embedded in the school year itself, and those haven't been popular. And so as a result, our makeup days end up being tacked on at the end of the calendar. That's been our protocol. So this is just basically informative, saying that's where we're at with missed days and where they would be made up.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments regarding that?
We'll have that on for,
Next week.
Formal at the next. Yep.
alright.
Okay. And then the last item on our work session is facilities.
Yes, so things are going to be tight next year, especially in Kennedy Secondary School. I would frame this as a good problem to have. You want to be growing in enrollment, not decreasing in enrollment. But we've got some large classes that have been moving up from the elementary into the middle school, and now they're moving into the high school. So it's creating some space issues for us. One possibility that has had some discussion would be expanding the number of students in 5th grade that could participate in the Prairie Wetlands Learning Center program. Right now, we are running, we could essentially add another day's worth of program, or another classroom worth of programming out there if we were to occupy the older learning classroom out there that currently is rotated by visiting districts. The Prairie Wetlands staff is very interested in this, but are interested in it if we would take a longer term approach. So they don't want a 1 year and done, but if we were interested in committing another group of students out there, they would like to see this, I'm just gonna say maybe for now, 3 to 5 years perhaps. So it is an opportunity to alleviate some pressure in KSS in terms of space. The Prairie Wetlands Learning Program, Prairie Science Classroom is a wonderful experience for kids. So as long as the interest is there and continues to be there, I would see this as a viable option with potential interest from both parties, so. Didn't want to surprise anyone with that, so something for the board to consider.
When do we have to make a decision on that part? And then,
He would, yeah, he would, Neil would like a decision by mid-April at the latest, so that they can make plans for staffing, et cetera.
That'd be the room in the lower level, where we have like the, when the kids go out and visit, then there's a classroom that's all set by itself there.
Yep, on the right.
Yeah, faces the west. I think it's-
Yes,
yeah, lower
right in
level.
front of
The
the,
other
right
one's
before the
facing-
cafeteria.
Yes, the other one's
Yep,
facing- okay.
yep, that is the room.
Yep. I think it's a little smaller than the other rooms, but,
It's longer and skinnier.
yeah, just a different shape.
Yeah.
Not the same stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
and that would free up,
That would be up one classroom
here.
here.
And then programming wise, we can do that, okay? With our new
The,
school?
yeah, the main issue it causes for us, I think, is pretty easily solved, but it's the transportation. Because we'll still need to get kids back for music, ed, and lunch.
Do we feel that there's gonna be enough parent interest to, it seems like we've been able to, as far as I know, satisfy what parents have wanted. So do we feel that they're going to, will be able to fill it?
I think it'll be very close. We would need about 125 of the 5th grade, 125 students in the 5th grade class to get our sections the way we need them to be.
Okay.
Can they repeat?
They can do 2 years.
Okay,
It's not guaranteed,
great.
so.
They can apply.
Yep.
And the only other question I have is staff. Do we have a staff person that's going to be moving to?
There were several names floated out as possibilities.
That's a possibility,
but
all
yes.
right, all right.
So that would open up some space over in Cleveland, or if we did that, if we did the Prairie thing.
It would open up some space here.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
Fifth
Yeah,
grade.
yeah.
Okay, I forgot fifth grade, yeah,
Mhm.
right, because that's fourth grade. Got it.
And he would guarantee us at least 5 years?
So Principal Hurst was talking with Neil directly, but I believe they would commit to 3 to 5 years for sure.
Okay. Because that is a change from what they previously were going to, or one of the reasons they weren't going to allow us, because we had talked about that before at one point in time.
I would say, based on what I've heard, they're pretty enthusiastic about the concept at this point, so.
Well, that's a change. Okay.
When did did you say we need to know by?
Mid-April.
Make a decision, okay.
Well, I think I'm just gonna speak that if it works program-wise, it's a great program. And if we have the ability to do it and offer it, I think it's I know there's some cost for the transportation part of it. So there's a trade-off there.
There's a trade-off, yep.
But we need space.
But we need this.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we could make a 3-year commitment rather than a 5, would be my preference. Because the space issue should resolve.
It's like that
In
one
3
class.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, if we're able to get the legislation passed to allow us to finish the second half of Lincoln, that will move 5th grade into Cleveland, which will open up 5 classrooms plus a smaller 6th. And we've got some other options out there to create a little more space too, so that should,
Is it really a transportation issue, or can we use the same bus?
It's right, because it's middle school, so it's a little bit, no, it's 2, because they got,
it's gonna be capacity.
Be adding
We
another
have
100
capacity, okay.
some kids.
Just need a bigger bus.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't love it because of all the transitions.
Mhm.
And then with the 5th graders, the orchestra, the choir, or the orchestra and band, and just all the jiggling. That's a lot
Moving parts.
that's a lot for a 5th grader, but
The kids that go to Prairie can go there if they're not in orchestra or band.
they can.
There's a lot of kids that aren't in band or orchestra that could go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Then we wouldn't have a bunch of good
Yeah, yeah, maybe we could stipulate that, but.
possible.
But I think it would, I mean, if it helps the space issue here, I think that would be a good, it's this, I think sport-wise, it'd
Yeah.
be really good.
Yeah.
But I do agree, because there's a lot of transitions that can
Yeah.
be for kids, for students.
Well, it's going to be plenty tight here for sure next year,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then the last piece that I had to do with our internal site survey for a potential new elementary. And the survey results were rather inconclusive in some respects. So each of the options seemed to have about as many passionate champions as it did major detractors. And so one thought that I wanted to share with the board is, would it make sense to send this internal survey out on a wider scope and get some parental input and/or community member input? Just in looking at the amount of time, effort, and financial resources that go into running a bond referendum, I really want to be putting an idea out there that's going to be looked upon favorably by the community, and not find when we're deep in the weeds that it wasn't something that the community embraced. So it would be a way of getting some more data on that might help point our direction moving forward.
I think if we put out a survey, we're gonna, I don't think it's, without the educational background, I don't think it's gonna be beneficial. So the whole process that goes into the bond referendum, where you reach out, invite the public in, you go into the details and give that whole interactive educational approach, that's what we need to do to have them make an informed kind of choice about where to have the school, or whether they liked our idea or not. So I don't know that it would serve us well to go out to the public for input when it's not very well defined. You know what I mean?
And even some of the information that the city has given us has been fairly vague on cost, the actual cost of what it would truly cost us to.
Yep.
You know, the different couple properties that they've given us, they don't give you an actual infrastructure cost. So it's tough when you try to equate, okay, what does that mean for us? as a district, and how much more do we have to tack on to be able to do this? And that's the part that's difficult, in my opinion, when you're going out for something, because it still comes down to, I mean, location's one, but also then cost is another. And then, how long does it take for that development to take place besides? Because nothing moves fast.
Right. I do think it's incumbent upon our leadership role here to refine it, define it, and then engage the public after that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna flounder, and we don't have time to flounder. So, that's my thought on it.
Well, so there are, if we're proceeding under the concept that kindergarten's gonna be in the second half of Lincoln, which I think we've really stayed the course with that idea, just waiting for the legislative support, then that really leaves, in my mind, two potential configurations. We're either going to build a 1 through 3 facility, could be 1 through 4, or you're gonna build a 3 through 5 facility. And if we were to build on the lot that's across the street from Prairie Wetlands, to me, then that's a 3 through 5.
For sure.
So
Just because
those-
of synergies of.
Yes,
geographics.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. So, those are two big questions that we need to come to some conclusion on.
Did you get a response from the person that owns that property?
I have a meeting with him on, I think, this Thursday morning.
And I think it's also important, because Brian should have some figures of
Mhm.
what it would cost
Infrastructure.
for infrastructure wise.
Was Brian going to that meeting?
Is Brian invited to that meeting?
Yeah, or is it just?
No, it's just me and the landowner.
Okay.
Conversely, if we end up going out by Lincoln, to the east of Lincoln, then that would lean towards more of a 1 through 3 configuration. Because you already got preschool and
Yep.
kindergarten there, and there's some synergies with
Mhm.
playgrounds and transportation and things like that.
Yeah. For what it's worth, on the internal survey, the least favorite option was out on 111. I think people just recognize that as too inconvenient probably, especially if you're picking up students from multiple locations.
I can see that, yep.
So that's all I have.
All right.
I just wanted to chat about one other thing with our committee roles, and wondering, Steve, if it would be helpful to you to have a second person, a second board member
Mhm.
serve on the DACRAC committee.
Yep, that's fine.
Or when you're unable to make it, I think that would be important
Mhm.
beyond Superintendent Drake to have one more member,
Mhm.
or at least one person be
Yeah,
there.
that's like 2 or 3, but,
And you can actually send out an email too, and just say, hey, I can't make it, can somebody fill it?
oh, I didn't think of that, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I've done that before too,
Mhm.
where,
Good to have one of us there.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be better to have a second, or just to communicate?
I think as long as we
Past
can-
experience.
I don't know, usually we've just communicated it before. I mean, I don't care which way we do it. I mean, it's a public meeting, so I mean, it's not like it's closed, so you can,
Yeah.
so any board member can come and sit. We don't have a quorum.
I'm just thinking, like, would it be helpful for somebody to just plan it schedule-wise, versus it being like a last minute, I can't make it, can you go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to make sure there's a guarantee one of us is there.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any interest in being a part of that committee?
Well, I served on that committee before, and then I switched with Steve so I could be on the staff development committee instead, since it met at a different time, that was gonna be more convenient.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we can talk about it, and maybe
Yeah.
it's just best if, Steve, if you can just communicate if it won't work,
Mhm.
so one of us can
Mhm.
attend in your absence.
Yeah. Let's try that for now. If
Okay.
we're still missing, then
Yeah,
we can
Yeah.
assign somebody, we can.
great.
I mean, I like the committee. It's not that I don't like the committee, I just don't know if I can make those Mondays all the time.
Correct.
Just at the timing. If it was later, back when it used to be, at 7 o'clock,
Oh, yeah.
that's a little bit.
That's
different.
true.
Yeah, it used to be late, so. But then we changed the time, so then we felt that tougher. Which I understand why it's earlier, but.
Alright, well,
Looks like we'll be in time to get good seats for the music concert.
yeah. Yeah, we'll grab food. Or, they're in the back there. Thank you.